Hello, my name is Mark Horton, and I'm an artist, and this is work that I have painted for my exhibition at Groveland Gallery, which opens April 26th. The title of the show is Cities and Towns. They're from my imagination, the paintings of cities and towns here. I ordinarily start with a small sketch, which I usually make at a coffee shop or coffee house. I spend some time there when they're not busy, and I take a few pencils and a few erasers and an artist's tablet, and I sketch. And I make very small sketches. Usually they're smaller than a credit card, and they're kind of scribbly, and I make a bunch of boxes, and if I find something interesting in the first one or the second one, I'll emphasize some lines in it, and it'll suddenly seem to make sense in terms of the possibility of a painting. And so with that in hand, you can kind of see this one has a little bit more of the sketchiness that you might have seen in my thumbnail sketch, in that the lines play a prominent part in this painting. And partly it was because in the little sketch that I had, the nature of the lines were really interesting to me, and so I followed through to some extent with that idea into the painting. Once in a while, I'll start a painting around a building that I know someplace because it has like an interesting shape to it. And in this particular instance, when I made my sketch, I just put a tower here, which was a reference in my mind to a government building downtown Minneapolis. But it's not a big tower like a skyscraper as there. I think it's really just a tower. But around that idea that I work in terms of shapes and colors. There's a lot of equal-sized shapes in the foreground and a variety of blue buildings and orange buildings and white buildings. So it was primarily a color palette that I was working with in this painting. And sometimes, as in the other painting we just talked about, that was focused on lines. So I tend to see my paintings from the starting point, because it's so open-ended with just a small thumbnail, as an unfolding idea. So I don't really know how the painting is going to turn out when I start. It's through a series of responses to what I just did, and in keeping that or changing it and continually working the idea, that gradually the whole picture, figuratively and literally, evolves. When I think about my first impression of the work, and in contrast to the finished part, I have to say that often I'm very surprised.